following program is a presentation of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio in iTunes.
And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market. From unusual activity alerts to market updates and trading strategies. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the option block. With your host, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com and co-hosts Mike Tosaw from KnowYourOptionsInc.com and Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com. The Option Block is brought to you by Options Express. Don't spend time worrying about your broker. At Options Express, security, stability, and account protection are the most important responsibilities to our customers. Secure account access, enhanced financial protection, entrusted with over $7 billion in customer assets, established financial stability. Options Express lets you trade with confidence. Stocks, options, and futures, all in one account. Trade with a specialist. Visit optionsexpress.com/OXradio to open your free account. Options Express is a member of FINRA, SIPC, and NFA.
Welcome back to the Option Block, your bi-weekly source for all things options related. My name is Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com, as well as the old Options Insider Radio Network. And I'm happy to be back on the old show this week. I took a little bit of a vacation last week, even though I did dial into some of our network shows from the happiest place on earth, which is an interesting place to be discussing in-depth options trading and derivatives subject matter from the land of the mouse. But I'm happy to be back. And of course, as always, on the old all-star panel, I am joined by my fellow compatriots, my partners in crime, starting off with the man from the mountains, a.k.a. Uncle Mike Tosaw from Know Your Options Inc. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the show, sir.
Always a pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure to be here.
I can sense the enthusiasm in your voice. It's infectious, sir. It gets all of us fired up here on the old all-star panel to do a good show because we know Uncle Mike is fired up and happy to be here. Right.
As always.
Also joining us on the old panel today, the man from the land of corn, none other than John Grigus from Options Express. Mr. Grigus, welcome back to the show to you as well.
Yeah, good to hear your voice. The corn has been harvested. The soybeans are in the silos. Everything is out of the ground, as they say. So no more corn observations from me from down south. But it is good to be back. We did the show last Tuesday. It was just me and Andrew. And got to say, it wasn't quite Sebastian Grigus level, but it was up there.
Yeah, I heard you guys had some fun ones. And then, of course, you and Andrew holding down the fort on Monday. Or I'm sorry, actually, it was Tuesday because we got bumped. And then Mark, you held down the fort on Thursday, so welcome back to you too, Mr. Sebastian. I heard you had a fun little episode there on Thursday.
I was told by everybody that heard it that it was great and that I should be the full-time host and that I'm the awesomest guy on the planet. That's what I heard.
All of that in
the awesomest guy on the planet. Wow.
On the planet. So you've migrated from being a little bit of a big deal to the awesomest guy on the planet. I guess a lot has happened over the past week.
Deal. He was somewhat of a big deal.
Yeah, this is according to my mom, who was the only person that listened to the show.
Well, she's very much an objective reviewer. I always turn to Mrs. Sebastian for all of my latest reviews of different subject matter.
Yep.
I'll say, hey, a new movie's coming out. I'll call up Mr. Sebastian and say, hey, what do you think about the latest James Bond film? Should I attend it or not? And she gives me her wit and wisdom, and it's usually pretty right on.
No, I got a question, Mark. What did your mom think of the strip club reviews? Did she like those?
Well, she was a little disappointed that I didn't rate hers as highly as VIPs.
Wow. Jeez, I won't even touch that with a 10-foot pole. That's all sorts of disturbing right there. So listeners, I think with that,
you guys don't realize you can't out-disgust me. All right, you can't go to a place that I won't go further.
Yes, that's true. I, for one, would never conjure up a sentence with your mother and the strip club in the same sentence. But hey, therefore, that's why we have you, Mark.
Right.
To go to that dark place that we will not.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right. Speaking of dark places, it's time once again for the trading block.
The trading block.
All right, and welcome to the trading block. This is, of course, the portion of the show where we discuss what was trading, what was moving the old markets today. And we had a little bit of back and forth seesaw action today to close once again, unched literally on pretty much, actually looking right now, all of the major indices, 0.0% unched on the day. So it was a rollicking day. It wasn't one of these days where we vacillated a ton, but a little bit around the old ATM. Not surprisingly, given the relative lack of any activity in one way or the other, the vol coming in quite a bit. So we saw good old VIX cash down nearly 2 handles today to 16, just ticked down a little bit as we're talking, to 16.72. So off over 10% today. Perhaps we'll start there. A lot of people expecting perhaps a little more, or not really sure what was going on. We saw a pronounced sell-off last week post-Obama. This is, of course, my first show since the election, so I'm sure you guys hit on all that fun stuff. But the market took quite a beating. Vol took quite a pop to the upside. Then towards the end of the week, when things stabilized, we saw vol come in aggressively. So I think a lot of people really thought that was a wee bit overdone. We had a lot of premium built in there going into the election. You saw a lot of discrepancy from applied versus realized, something we talk about quite a bit on our other show, Volatility Views. So a lot of that had to eventually come in, and it came in last week, and of course, looks like more of it came in today. So, Mark, we'll start there. Anything surprising in today's VIX action to you?
Got absolutely slaughtered. Absolutely slaughtered. So, you know why? Well, the market was flat 2 days in a row. I think now that we've sold off on the Obama news, I think that we're just going to sit here around 13, in between 1360 and 1400 for the next month until this fiscal cliff falls apart, or if it looks like talks break down. Until then, I mean, it's very difficult to figure out a good reason to be short December options, for instance, which is what all of VIX is right now, or excuse me, long December options. You know, the VIX is calculating entirely December. December expires the 20-something, let's see, it expires the 21st. Can you give me a good reason why you would want to be long any option at a 17 VIX when it expires with a full 10 days before the fiscal cliff officially happens? The answer is no. So I think you'll see the VIX start to creep back up as it picks up some January, but it got absolutely torched. So did the futures.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting. It is probably a period right now where we're going to be vacillating quite a bit in the marketplace. There's all this crazy news coming out.
We're going to be vacillating like a seventh grader.
Not only did Obama win, sending the markets into a bit of a spiral, then he, of course, came out, didn't sound like he was too much in the compromising mood, so that hit the markets even more. We have other random bits of nonsense coming out, like the head of the CIA getting forced out over in
what a story that was.
It's just fantastic. I had to throw it in there a little bit because it is a fantastically crazy story.
There's nothing more fantastic than that. I mean, it's just beautiful.
It's got everything you love. It's got a guy who was probably a little bit too ambitious for himself, a girl who was obviously using him to climb her way and increase her public image, the sex under the desk, thousands of dirty emails, and of course the CIA director.
How about the threatening emails? Back off my man.
Yeah.
That's
fantastic.
The one. Now, my understanding is the second woman was not actually sleeping with him. She was just friends with him. And this girl, like, I haven't heard a story this crazy since the Depends and the knife from the astronaut.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that one. You're right. All the sex scandals all coming back, flooding into my memory now. That was a good one too. You're right. This is up there though. This is up there.
This is up there as well. What makes it even better is completely ruins the who someone many people thought might be a presidential candidate.
This guy was on the fast track to a major party ticket. I mean, he had risen from. I was watching his career for years. I mean, this guy was getting a lot of ink even back in the mid 2000s when he was kind of a low level guy in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I was saying, wow, this relatively low level military guy is getting a lot of ink over his subordinates. That's kind of interesting. And that you knew this guy was playing the PR game quite well, and he used it to his advantage. He rose quite far, quite fast. And everyone was talking about people were even talking about Romney picking him this year as a running mate. And certainly, I'd say in 2016, he was a guy who was up for something. And all of that pretty much gone now. Reminiscent of Spitzer in a lot of ways. Another guy who was very much gunning for the top and completely undid himself through some pretty ridiculous activity. And Petraeus apparently following the Spitzer model.
Well, so what's more disturbing, that or the Elmo puppeteer getting caught with a 16-year-old boy?
Here we are with the sex scandal block. The Elmo thing is a little bit. Of course, they both end in X, Vix and sex. There we go.
This is just brilliant.
That's what our listeners tune in for. Some option talk with a dose of sex scandal on top.
Reason number 9,000 to hate Elmo is this. I've never liked Elmo, and I continue not to like Elmo.
I will say that one sounds a little bit more dubious than this one, though. This guy's obviously coming out of the woodwork all this time later, trying obviously to squeeze this guy. I don't know the specifics of it, but it sounds way more dubious than the Petraeus thing, which is pretty clear cut.
That was surprised that the voice of Elmo liked to touch boys, really, in the end.
Yeah, the guy's an enormous guy too. He does this really, really high-pitched voice. I've always been kind of amazed at that he could pull that off. And I don't think we'll go any farther with that comparison. Just leave that for the listeners.
Let's hear your imitation of Elmo, Mark.
Oh, no. That's far too disturbing even for me, let alone for the listeners.
I'd like to hear that. Wouldn't you, John?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Waiting.
Yep.
I
Mike,
do a better count. I do a better count. 1, 2, 3. I can't do an Elmo. I'm no Elmo, but I can do a good count.
That'll have to do.
I can do Guy Smiley pretty well.
I don't even know who that is.
That was the game show host.
Oh, that's a Muppet game show. All right, we're crazy off track now. But we had a fun place to go, nonetheless. Aside from sex scandals, Muppet and CIA and otherwise, what have you been watching today and over the past week, Uncle Mike?
Well, I'm getting ready to get back into Apple. I think it's going down so doggone much. I think that we might be coming into Apple being the next Microsoft. We talked about this on the show a couple weeks ago, and just looking at some of the premium that exists, like $50 to $100 out, I haven't done anything yet, but that's something that I'm looking at right now just because of the fact that I don't think the company's going to go belly up by any means, but I really don't see it going back to $700 in the near term, and I think this might not be a bad thing to sell some premium on.
I know you had dabbled with that 500 strike in the past. Is that where you're thinking again, maybe Dees or Jan 500 strike?
Well, it's gradually getting lower as Apple gets lower, so I don't know right now. I want to wait till we get some semblance of not trying to catch the old proverbial falling knife. But I'm just looking at December. The December 495s, last I looked, and this was midday, so this may or may not be true right now. But the December 495s were trading at $7, and with that, you're getting a little bit over 1% for a 4.5 week time frame or time period, and the stock has to go down close to 10%. So with that in mind, is that the right trade to do? No. And have I done it yet? No. But the premiums that exist in the short puts, along with them being in Apple, definitely has me intrigued at this point.
Yeah, I'm looking here at the Jan 500 puts while we're talking. They're trading about 13.5 or so, about 36 vol. What was that?
This potential Wheel of Fun candidate, Mark or Mike?
Everything's the Wheel of Fun, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. I'm just wondering, Kavanaugh, let's call that the Wheel of Fun. You think this is a good candidate? The short put and then moving into the covered call? Possibly,
yeah. I mean, what I would definitely want, even though it is Apple, I would definitely probably do it as I hate to say the term credit spread just because that's kind of a misnomer, as you've probably even agreed to in the past, Mark. But I would kind of have the mentality of just selling a put, but then buying another put maybe like at, I don't know, 430 or something like that, just in case Apple does become the next Enron. You never know. And then, potentially doing it a collared wheel of fun, so to speak, and starting over and being happy with the fact that we missed out on $150 of downside.
If Kavanaugh was here, he'd want me to remind you that they have indeed rebranded that as the triple income strategy. So apparently the third level of income is the asset appreciation.
Yeah, what's the? I get what the two incomes are.
Yeah, I think I've asked him that before. I think the third is just you bet the stock's going to go up.
Or is
So
it
there's
dividend?
the income.
Or is
It is dividend. Yeah, it's typically for a dividend. So it wouldn't technically be a triple income strategy because with a dividend, I think Apple's dividend is 1.96%, I believe. So it technically would not be a triple income strategy. So this would be the wheel of fun.
Just double income, I'm out. Forget it. If it's not triple income, you're just wasting my time.
How dare they?
And Mr. Grigus, what's been lighting up your tape? I know you guys had a pretty busy week last week. You made it on the Tuesday show, couldn't make it on the Thursday show, and a lot of stuff going on. Of course, the big sell-off post-election probably kept you guys pretty busy over there, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, we were busy running into the day of the election. I think the market ran up. The volume was really light, but we were kind of skeptical, when we talked on, I think it was Tuesday, actually election day. Andrew and I, he said he was going to fade the vol if it popped up the next couple of days, and the next day we were just slammed. I mean, everyone was selling. Our customers weren't panicking though. I think a lot of them were getting out the day before, and they were actually, buying puts and pushing the market further down on Wednesday. One of the things I say about our traders, our account holders, they're fairly savvy when it comes to these event-driven moves in the market.
So they were loading up on Obama puts?
Yeah, well, they were closing out a lot of their longs on election day. I think it was more of like, we've had a nice run up. Obama's probably going to win. That's what the early polls are saying. Let me close out of some of these winners and see what the next few days brings. But futures were down about 100 points on Wednesday morning, and we just had people coming in bearish, continuing to push it down. I think at the lows we were down over 300 points.
So they were just taking their risk off the books in case we had another 2000 scenario where we're bouncing around for a month or two, not knowing who the president is.
Yeah, and then this fiscal cliff that everyone knows about, has been sitting in the wings for 2 months, and as soon as the election's over, they just switch topics, and now it's all about this. I mean, we hear about it day in and day out now, and it's only been, a few days.
Gotta love the market. All about what have you done for me lately. The election's in the rearview mirror. It's time for the fiscal cliff. And speaking of things that it's time for, it is time now, once again, for everyone's favorite segment, the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, and welcome to the Odd Block. This is, of course, where we break down some of the interesting and or the unusual options activity that's lighting up the old tape. We're going to kick things off, I should say, with a takeover candidate here. TIE, not TIE Fighter, but Titanium Metals Corporation. It's actually Titanium Metals Corporation. This name closed today up about 43%, or nearly 5 handles to 16.5. This is, of course, after they were announced late on Friday that Precision Cast Parts Corporation announced on Friday that they will buy TIE for $16.50 a share. So, not surprisingly, we saw the stock open up right at that price today. But not so much. We're looking at what's interesting about this trade is not so much what happened today, but some of the trades that went up over the past few weeks in this name. We saw some people opening up some, at the time, what looked like fairly bullish upside trades, including in the Nove 12s, where we saw hundreds of those going up on Friday, picking up with prices around 13 cents a piece. Those options are now trading about $4.40 right now. So those were some fairly substantial winners, a 30x increase in value since Friday. We also had about a month ago someone coming in, picking up nearly 1,000 of the Nove 13 calls. also for about 15 cents a piece. These were fairly out of the money at the time as well, so it looked like a fairly big flyer that this guy was putting on. Those are now trading for $3.60 a piece, or about 25 times what they paid for them back in October. So far, two fairly sizable winners here on this trade coming out of TIE. This is a name that usually does sub 1,000 contracts a day. Did over 15,000 today. So a big day today for TIE, including a lot of trading today in the Jan 15s and 16s, not surprisingly, given where this name settled out. Next up, we have everybody's favorite Lilly, ticker symbol LLY, of course, talking about Eli Lilly and Company. And this is the drug maker that this name was on a bit of a move today. It settled off a little bit towards the end of the day, closing up about 2% to 48.30 on the day. So we saw a lot of bullish trades going up here in Eli Lilly today. This company is about to present some phase 2 data for a new rheumatoid arthritis drug at a conference tomorrow at the American College of Rheumatology. And so people are loading up on some upside ahead of this announcement. We saw someone coming in gobbling up about 5,000 of the Nov 48s for about 30 cents a piece. There's not stocks rallying today, so those are already a winner, trading 45, 50 cents right now towards the right around the close. This guy obviously expecting Lilly to tick up post the news tomorrow. The stock's recent high has been about $54 back a few weeks. The stock's come off quite a bit since then. Obviously, this guy looking for this name to pop. Once again, he's got a couple of weeks left for these. Not even 2 weeks. He's got 5 days. What am I talking about? These are weeklies at this point. He's got 5 days for this trade to come to fruition. So obviously, he's betting that tomorrow is going to be a flagship day for good old Lilly. And speaking of flagship, our next name up on the old odd block is FBC. This is Flagstar Bancorp Inc. I believe this is a first-timer here on the old odd block. This is the name that usually does, about 200 or so contracts a day. They did a whopping 1,200 today. They closed at $16.41, up about 2% on the day. This is the holding company for Flagstar Bank, in case you're familiar with that name. And this is the guy, looks like he's adding on to a position he put on previously. We saw a lot of activity today in the Jan 15 and 17 half calls that were active. These were active Friday as well, with someone putting on some 1x2s on these two strikes. We saw someone doing it again today. He put on about 1,000 of these on Friday, did it 1x2, did another about 400 by 800, almost another 500 by 1,000 again today as well. So adding his total to about 1,500 by close to 3,000 on these two strikes. This guy obviously looking for a nice little pop here in FBC by January, but not an extreme pop, a little bit of a measured rally. This guy's been legging into some 1x2s for quite a while. Not a name I follow too religiously. Uncle Mike, Mark, or John, you guys see any activity going up in FBC that you've been watching of late? Or John, any customers ever call up raging to get into good old Flagstar Bancorp?
Not too many on the Flagstar Bancorp. I mean, the banking sector was all the rage in 08, 09, and early 2010. And as you can see by their weak stock performance and the fact that I own some banks.
Oh, well, that's it right there.
There you go.
Did we ever figure out what happened with your Groupon stock?
I'm still in it.
No.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. I apologize. I was hoping it would not come up. You weren't going to hear anything from me, but I'm down 45% or something.
Oh, John.
You had to get out.
It's even worse, but I won't say that actually on the air. But I have other things to.
Did you pick up more on the way? You liked it at 5. You loved it at 3.5. Is that one?
No, just let me know if you see if you saw a 10,000 lot go up on Friday.
I would. Why don't you look
on the D's $3 puts? I think there's about 10,000 contracts went up.
Oh geez. For no other reason, you had to get out of this because you're making Sebastian look good with his 1x2 put spread here. Actually, we might be blowing past your strike now. Have you blown past your 2 strike?
Yeah, I took that off before earnings for a nice win because I saw the writing on the wall. What I've got now, John, here's good news for you. All right.
All right.
The trade I threw out was selling the January. Here, 1 second. I'm gonna have to pull this up just to make sure I get the quote right. I don't want to steer everybody wrong. Obviously, it was the January 2013 2 put at 15 cents, and the January 2014 put, or 2014 10 call for 10 cents. I put on the risk reversal with a year time frame in it, the diagonal risk reversal on for a nickel credit. So
did you just say the 10 call?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I wrote. That's what I wrote down, and I'm looking at my
Yeah, that's some optimism there, sir.
No,
Mark, I'm not going to laugh at you because you told me to get out and I didn't. So
no. My whole thing is that I think they'll hold $2 between now and January expiration, and the idea is, do I think it's gonna be at $10? No, but I might as well bank as many of these cheap little calls as I can, because you never know when someone's gonna bullish and it runs to 6 or 6.5, and I could sell those for $0.25 or $3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, if you want to trade options, options in Groupon, get your orders in soon. It's going to be sub-optionable pretty soon if it continues on this trajectory.
It's gonna be sub optionable. All right.
I was looking at Cosi today. They have earnings coming up later this week. Talk about sub optionable. They're trading 67 cents. Hopefully Groupon isn't on a similar path for your sake, John.
I know.
And that 10,000 lot of puts you put up on Friday.
The puts were a good. I don't think the puts were a bad trade. I could think of worse things.
Where are you gonna get out if the stock gets to?
I mean, maybe $1. You know, I'll eat a little bit, but I'm not gonna go crazy here. And but no, I mean, I think it's gonna hold $2 for a little bit. I mean, I think there's enough buyers around there. And, you know, if you consider that the value of their cash and the value of their, you know, email lists and things like that, like their email list alone is probably worth $200 million. If you consider how many emails they have on their list. You know, Mark, what's an email worth, you think? Like a verified...
A Groupon email, you know, less than, let's say, you know, a targeted options email, because that's a very targeted thing.
No.
Just a general Groupon consumer, you probably get some demographic information out of it. At least $30 per thousand or something like that, you know?
It's definitely double opt-ended into.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you consider how many hundreds of millions they have, you know, that right there, that they probably have a close to 9-digit valuation on their email database.
There you go. That's the future of Groupon, the greatest spam machine ever.
And that doesn't include their customer contact database, which is targeted. So you add that and $300 million in cash. You know, at $2, it is a $800 to $900 million company. That's probably a fair value right here.
You know, it's interesting. Earlier this year, we saw all this wave of Web 2.0 companies rushing to go public, getting in ahead of Facebook. That was the hot thing to do. Now, a lot of them are looking back and saying, wow, probably shouldn't have done that. Zynga, Groupon, Facebook hasn't been getting treated too well by the market of late.
If you started a Web 2.0 company, you're probably very happy you did.
Yeah, if you're the founders and the initial VC guys, they all got out and they're doing well. But I'm saying for the long-term health of the company, probably not the best thing. I think Zynga guys have even come out and said this. Yeah, it's been a huge burden on us. Of course, there's other problems with Zynga as well. Groupon, another one. Probably should have taken that Google deal, looking better every day.
Groupon's everybody in the world knew that Groupon should have taken that Groupon deal, except for Groupon.
And now they are reaping the whirlwind of the 1x2 put spreads. All right.
They make their bed, they can lie in it.
That is going to do it for the old odd block today, and now we're going to dive right into the Xpress Block.
The Xpress Block, brought to you by Options Express. Options Express lets you trade where and when you want for every level of trading. From advanced charting, free daily trading ideas, and free educational resources, Options Express is the online broker for all traders. Best of all, Options Express allows you to trade stocks, options, and futures all in a single account on powerful yet easy-to-use trading platforms, including mobile devices. Visit optionsexpress.com/OXradio for your free account. Options Express
Express is a member of FINRA, SIPC, and NFA.
All right, and welcome to the Xpress Block. This is, of course, the portion of the show where the man from the land of corn, a.k.a. John Grigus, holds down the court. And what do you do out there in New Lenox now that all the crops are out of the ground, as you said?
We shoot coyotes, go hunting, squirrel, varmint.
I mean, you should hang out with Uncle Mike.
Coyotes.
You have a lot in common there.
Tucson, you could actually Saturday mornings. I'm raking leaves right now.
Nice. I'm in. I miss raking leaves.
Come on out. Come on out to St. Charles. I'll hook you up.
Yeah. No. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I'd have my buddy Glenn over, and my dad would be like, "Hey, kids, what are you up to?" And we'd be like, "Oh, we're playing video games." He goes, "Grab a rake."
Good time. That's why I bought a condo downtown. I specifically said no yard, no leaves, none of that stuff. It's been a good decision, I think.
Kidding. No, a lot of people hunt out there. I'm not really into hunting. I like shooting guns, but I'm not into hunting. But we're growing mustaches in the office for Movember, raising money for men's health and prostate cancer. So yours truly is sporting a little handlebar right now.
That's
kind of scary. A Burt Reynolds style or even bigger?
A little less than that.
Ollie fingers?
Yeah. I couldn't get the shaving down quite right the first week, and so it's kind of modified. A modded handlebar, dually, something like that. Wife hates it. She's looking for, separation papers and divorce attorneys and stuff, but...
Does it count for Movember if you already have like a beard and mustache, but you can just kind of say it's for that? Does it count for that?
No, we made people shave everything and start over. Yeah. Which actually seen someone without a beard.
Yeah, Mark, I think November you actually have to shave yours off, don't you?
There we go.
Yeah.
That's the opposite. Yeah. It's the shave-vember.
Like Bizarro World, Seinfeld. So we got that going on here, but there were a couple of things that popped up on the radar. The first thing to start today was that Jeffries acquisition. Really surprised Longo did not have that in your trading block this morning. Put that right down on my notes. But sorry,
I got.
Oh, go ahead.
What I was going to say is, did anybody see how many puts traded in Lockheed Martin on Friday, right before they announced this whole debacle?
I was in the house of the mouse, so I did not.
Oh my gosh! On Friday, I mean, it was silly. How they were like, we don't care if everybody knows that we're cheating. I'll throw out a number here. So let me read this to you. Bought at just after 2 o'clock Eastern time, 5,000 of the 75 puts in Jan, 10,000 of the 80 puts in Jan, 5,000 of the 85 puts in Jan, another 5,000 of the 75 puts in Jan, another 10,000 of the 80 puts in January. Here's 5,000 of the 85 puts in January. Here's the 75 puts again, and here's another 12,000 of the 75 puts. So pretty impressive Lockheed Martin January set of January trades bought right before this big announcement. It's pretty phenomenal, actually.
That's some That's old school insider trading type of options.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Trading.
It's brilliant.
That's like back in the old days when Goldman would lift your offer on calls at 259, and then a Goldman analyst would upgrade the next day, and for a Goldman customer. You don't see that much anymore. They try to disguise it usually a little better than that.
Well, that's why they bought the Januaries and not the.
Yeah, it's not speculative. It's purely for look how far off we are.
Yeah,
anything could happen. Anything could happen between now and January. I know nothing.
There was 2 other things on the desk. We have Thanksgiving coming up. We're going to have markets closed on Thursday except for futures, an abbreviated session on Friday. Be aware of that. Markets close at, I believe, 1 o'clock Eastern. We had a special the last 2 years where if you did your futures trades on mobile, they were commission free. So I think we're going to run something like that again. They're looking to expand it possibly into equity and equity options as well.
Is that just on Black Friday, or is that for the whole week, or when does that run?
Just on Black Friday. So I mean, I'm not working that day, so I might start churning some futures.
Oh yeah, you got an early shopping trip to make, John?
Yeah, I got to get that Squeezy Susie, that new hot toy for my daughter. I don't know.
Squeezy Susie is the new hot toy?
That's as disturbing as the Elmo story, I think.
That's really disturbing.
I'm sure there's something out there. You guys all have kids. What's the hot toy this year?
I don't know. If it's Squeezy Susie, though, I can tell you this much. My kid's not getting it.
That was for my wife. I got this list. Sorry.
I've been hearing about Ninjago at my house.
And then there was one other thing, too. And actually, Mark, when I was out with you at that OIC conference in New York, I bumped into a gentleman who was pitching, I believe he worked for the NASDAQ, but he was pitching Treasury note and bond options. I don't know if you got a chance to talk to him. I believe us three were all talking at one point. But they're actually going to be options on people who hold like long-term cash bonds and notes, 30-year and 10-year, and then you can write options against these. So we may or may not offer it. We're looking over it right now, but ideally you'd be able to hold treasuries, have release to trade equity options, or even futures. I believe we get about a 90% release or a 10% haircut. And then you'd be able to sell calls against those cash bonds and actually bring in a premium. So you'd have an interest return on the note or bond itself. You could sell calls against the cash bond and actually bring in more premium and then use a release. And the reason that they can't use the existing futures options to write against those cash bonds is there's no cross margin, no relief from there. They're not covered. So we have a small contingency of large treasury holders. We're going to probably reach out to them, speak to them, see if they have any interest in it, and possibly build it out. But small for us. But I got to imagine some of those, Schwab accounts that have
that sounds like it's right up Schwab's alley.
Yeah, not something you see much here. I mean, we do a lot of people, but they're doing usually short-term bills, and not even that much, now because there's no, 0.2% return on a 3 and 6 months bill. But for some of these people that hold some of the longer-term cash treasury bonds, this might be another way to kind of find interest when there really isn't any out there right now. There's no returns and for foreseeable future as well.
Speaking of up Schwab's alley, are you heading to the big Schwab Impact Conference this week for all the advisors coming to Chicago?
We had some of the advisors in. I'm not actually going to it. I'm going to something on the 28th through Schwab, but hopefully I start to get on this junket or circuit and get out of dreary Chicago in the middle of the winter this year.
Well, yes, I'm happy that they rotated some advisors into the office even, because from what I've been hearing, this big Schwab advisor conference is going to have, zip, zero, and nada about options. I think they're bringing Randy Frederick in for one little talk. But he said that's pretty much all he could get in was just one little session. So, yeah, still not too enthused about the old derivatives on the advisor side is Schwab. At least from what I hear, and I've been thinking about swinging by and checking out the show, but I'm not sure about time this week. Sounds like it'll be very Morningstar-esque, though, in that it'll be very light on anything options related. So not too much fodder for us.
Yeah, ETFs and mutual funds. Woohoo!
Yeah, that's the hot thing. Diversify your mutual fund selection. There we go. That's scintillating stuff. All right, John, anything else before we wrap up the old Express Block?
No, that's it for this week.
All right, thank you for that, sir. And with that, we shall close out the old Express Block and dive right into the Strategy Block.
The Strategy Block.
All right, and welcome once again, come one, come all, to the Strategy Block. This is, of course, the portion of the show where Uncle Mike Tosaw takes the reins and takes us down some dark and lonely road to learn about some very esoteric portion of the options market. So, Uncle Mike, what do you have in store for us today, sir?
Oh, it's actually nothing dark and lonely at all. It's actually very light and friendly, quite frankly, I think. Who wouldn't want to hang out when you're talking about options?
There we go. I was all wrong. It's actually a very cheery place that you come from, sir.
Absolutely. So what I want to go through today is just I was working to put a collar on with a client the other day, and on this show, we would probably just in terms of like his background with his trading, he is what's known as a degenerate premium seller, so to speak. And with that, just as we're going through this, we were talking about closing out a position or something along those lines. And so what we came up with is that and he's actually done pretty well for himself selling premium through the years. He just kind of wanted to do a couple of things with his a certain section of his portfolio, wanted to see how we worked collars and things like that. But what we came down to is that we were looking to see whether we should close out a position or keep it or roll it or wait to roll it, whatever the case may be. And he was pretty concerned with the money we were going to lose from being long a put for the next few days, basically. And we're probably going to get out. We will get out of it before expiration. But my point is this. Understand what you're going for before you get into a strategy. If you're selling a naked put or selling a naked call, then understand what you're trying to do is make money off of theta. If you are doing a debit spread of some sort to where you're looking for an increase in the stock or a decrease in the stock, you're trying to make money off of delta. Have an understanding of what you're trying to do before you get into it. And because of the fact that he was having a hard time watching the long option take away time decay, it kind of hurt what we were trying to do. Now, Grant, we talked through it, and so everything's fine. But my point is that he was having a hard time looking at a put, a protective put, losing time premium. Now, granted, the put was fully financed by the call. We were actually a little bit over theta-ized. That's going to be a new technical term, over theta-ized. But it's not too bad. It's a good.
I like that.
But with that, he wanted to get out of it and roll it, but we didn't really have to because of the fact that we achieved our original goal of not paying for the put, and so it wasn't necessary. So now at this stage of the collar strategy, what we're looking to do as we get closer to expiration, we're looking to take a shot. And if we can make some money on gamma, so for example, or even delta, so where let's say the stock goes way down and the value of that put goes way up, we'll be able to sell the put for a profit, buy more shares, and recollar next month. Or if the stock does go up, because we still have some room side to the upside, then we'll be making money off of the delta from the stock itself. We're looking to make money off of delta and gamma when we collar typically. Very seldom are we looking to make money off of theta. Not to say we never do, but point of today's conversation is understand which Greek you're trying to make money off of, and don't get it confused. Another thing that people do, I'll see, is if you're selling maybe a naked put to try to make money off of the theta. Well, okay, the put goes way in the money, and you're assuming that, oh, well, if the stock goes back up again, then I still get out of the month. I can still collect my premium, and I'm still out scot-free. Well, that's fine, but understand you're not trying to make money off of theta then. You're trying to make money off of delta because you're going to need delta to correct the theta that's gone against you, so to speak. So with that in mind, not only do you need to have a trading plan, but also understand what you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it before you get into it.
This guy sounds pretty funny. He was such a degenerate premium seller. He couldn't stand having this one long put position. It was just eating away at him for a couple of days to watch it decay, huh?
And what, he's a great guy. He's very intelligent with everything that he does. Just that trying to do things off of gamma and delta is a little bit different for him.
Was his name Don by any chance?
His name is not Don.
And our volatility viewers, listeners, will know exactly who I'm talking about. All right, thank you for that, Uncle Mike. One to grow on, as usual. And with that, we're going to close out our strategy block for this week and roll right into Around the Block.
Around the Block.
All right, and welcome to Around the Block. This is, of course, the portion of the show where we talk about what's on our radar for the rest of the week. And as we talked about at the top of the show, we saw the big event from a vol and from an underlying movement perspective last week with the election. Kind of seemed to be settling into a range now, as we said, most of the major indices closing today 0.0%, literally unched on the day. Usually you see one of the indices doing that. It's rare to see all three coming in at that level, so that's a surprisingly unched day. Probably have a few more of these in store for us until we start sorting out the fiscal issues towards the end of the year. But while we're vacillating around from a macro perspective, there are some developments on the near-term horizon that might be interesting from an options perspective. Starting off, I hate to do it, Uncle Mike, but it is that time once again We have Cisco coming out tomorrow after the close. Just close your ears, Uncle Mike, till we're done. Okay, I don't want you to have to feel that pain again.
Oh my.
Oh, not Cisco.
Cisco kid was not a friend of mine.
You bring up Cisco every time they should. You know that you ever heard of a Silkwood shower? Mike Tosaw takes a Cisco shower.
Cisco has come off quite a bit, trading south of 17 again. Game. So this is your chance, Uncle Mike, to get back in. I think this is it. Do it. Do it for.
It's gonna let me come back in.
It's gonna let you come back in. Take the pain all over again. That should be their tagline, Cisco. Cisco, take the pain all over again. Also, we joked earlier on the show, not exactly optionable, but good old Cosi, everyone's favorite sandwich joint here in downtown Chicago, and brick oven pizza on the 15th. Dell. Whoa. I'm scared to even ask what that is. Is that like Toto, The Rains in Africa or something?
No, it's The Crying Game by George.
There we go. Oh, that's
Cisco,
all.
Don't do it again! Cisco, no!
Leave me alone!
God, that's so wrong. Uncle Mike and The Crying Game all in the same episode in the same sentence. I don't know if I'll ever be able to wash my brain of that image. And you threw Boy George in there as well, which is always just a disturbing image as well. Speaking of 16-year-old boys and whatnot. But yes, also speaking of some also rans in Boy George, we also have Dell here reporting on the 15th. Not exactly the high flyer in the tech land that they once were, but they have they're trading south of $10 right now, $9.35. So not a heck of a lot going on out there in Dell land, but it might have some interesting stuff. I know, Sebastian, the one you're focusing on this week is obviously one that's really near and dear to you. That's, of course, Hot Topic coming out on the 14th.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that's because I'm so into dressing like a vampire.
Yeah, not just that, but like, anything that has clothing and 14-year-old girls, that's right up your alley,
Wait, hey. I do not have a Muppet character. All right? You back off.
Speaking, we haven't had a chance to talk about this, Mark. So I have to just throw this out here this is more of a perhaps in the rearview mirror block segment. But I haven't had a chance to hear your thoughts on this. The big news of last week from a 80s, also 70s reference perspective. Of course, Disney buying Star Wars. What did that enthrall you? Did that terrify you? Are you a big Star Wars guy?
I think it's a brilliant move. I think that if you consider that the part that ruined the last three Star Wars movies was George Lucas's involvement.
Exactly.
I think that we're in great shape. I think this was a brilliant purchase by Disney.
And they got it all for $4 billion. Seeing what they got, that's actually a comparatively cheap amount.
Oh, I mean, if you consider they're going to make 3 movies out of it, at least Star Wars The Ride, Star Wars The 3D, all these new characters. They'll probably be able to come up with a kids version of the show that people actually like. There's just so much there. I think it is absolutely a brilliant move on Disney's part and a tax timing move on the part of George Lucas.
It was interesting, too. He was the sole shareholder. He had no other investors, no other partners. He never, in all that time, all of his other people he worked with never peeled off any equity shares to them. He said, nope, this is all mine. Yep, I give you nothing. Guy.
Although he has to give, doesn't Spielberg get some of the original Star Wars revenue?
He might get some royalty off of it. Or Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones probably, not Star Wars, but Indiana Jones maybe. But yeah, he doesn't have an equity percentage, that's for sure. That's all into Lucas's pocket. And I couldn't agree more. I think this is a fantastic deal for Disney. I was down there this week, of course. Everyone just couldn't stop talking about Star Wars, Star Wars land, Star Wars characters, Star Wars. I think this is hugely bullish for Disney. This gets them out of this and the combination of that and the Marvel acquisition a few years ago gets them out of solely the arena of the princesses and fairies and actually makes them relevant for little boys, which is a whole new market for them. And don't even go into the Elmo stuff. But
I actually
for little
think
boys.
I think that's key. I mean, until the Marvel and this acquisition, the closest they had to anything a little boy would like would be the Cars franchise and
Pirates,
Toy Story.
Yeah,
Toy Story, and Pirates are lame. Nobody
But that's all they had. They had pirates, and that was it, really.
The kid that dresses up as a pirate, they're always annoyed because their mom took like an old pair of their shorts and cut up the bottom, and like an old T-shirt and cut up the arms, and gave them some crappy hat and an eye patch. I think
we're getting a glimpse into Mark Sebastian's childhood here.
A 90-cent expenditure, and congratulations, you're a crappy pirate. And now moms are so granola crunchy, we're non-violent, that the kid doesn't even get to have a fake
no
sword.
no sword.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Just a parrot.
So, yeah,
My son was a ninja for Halloween, and he had multiple swords.
Well, there you go. Doing it right, Uncle Mike.
That's right.
But yeah, I think this is you have a little boy and a little girl, right, Uncle Mike?
Yeah.
So this is probably interesting for you too, because the little boys, they finally have something more at Disney, especially when they get a little older than just the original stuff. So I think this is hugely bullish for them. The stock market taking them a task a little bit. Of course, they're spending $4 billion. You expect the stock to drop a little bit off of that, but long term, it's an interesting one.
I think the big thing is that they're buying this at a time where ESPN is starting to see some real competition from NBC Sports, CBS Sports. I mean, NBC paid through the nose for English Premier League. NBC is going to be going after that Thursday night football game. You name it. NBC and Universal are gunning for ESPN. Just saying. Yeah. And if you consider that NBC owns all those Comcast sports nets, you now have some real interesting things going on there, don't you think?
Here you go, Uncle Mike. For all your clients, the Jan 2015 50/60 1x2 in Disney for essentially even money, maybe a little bit of a debit. There you go. Pure gold. Particularly once those movies start rolling out. You might have to roll that short strike eventually, because it'll probably be through that. But that's around the time these movies are going to start becoming on the horizon again. This investment's going to start paying off. So there you go. That's as far out as we can go. Jan 2015. But yeah, interesting stuff out there from Disney. Makes me certainly interested to start taking a look at them from an underlying perspective again and start maneuvering in and out for some options. Interesting stuff going on. Uncle Mike, what are you watching for the rest of the week around the block, aside from Cisco and, of course, Disney?
Right. Well, not so much this week, but next week. I mean, obviously we have Black Friday coming up, and curious to see what all the hype is about, obviously, and want to see if we have a big day. And definitely should probably watch Schwab stock, since they're giving away futures trades for free on Black Friday. And that's probably the main thing right now. The elections are over, and I'm continuing to watch the debates over whether we're going to get off the financial cliff, stay on the financial cliff, or who's going to compromise. I think it's similar to what it was in August of 11, back when we were talking about raising of the debt ceiling. So still watching the intelligent politicians of our day, the powers that think they be, and along with Black Friday.
I can see you in line, Uncle Mike, launching some spoos from your cell phone while you're waiting in line for the $6 toaster oven at Target.
Oh, the $6, they're selling them for $6, huh?
Probably. They do. All right, and last but certainly not least, Mr. Grigus, what are you watching for the rest of the week?
The economic calendar is pretty chock full. We got retail sales and PPI on Wednesday. Got also the FOMC minutes coming out on the 14th. Philly fade on the 15th. So there's a lot of economic numbers out there, but
who watches economic numbers when there's Star Wars news about, sir?
No, I know. I still have my Millennium Falcon. I'm about to go dust that thing off. I watched Return of the Jedi on Saturday just to kind of have something playing on in the background. I mean, for a movie that's 35 years old, I mean, it's still pretty good.
My little guy's closing in on 4 at the end of the year, and he's angling to watch them now. He's starting to become tangentially aware of them.
The old movies hold up better than the new movies.
Oh, the new movies are atrocious.
But the ending of the new movie where she dies for some no reason.
Yeah, that's fantastic. She dies from a broken heart, essentially. That's George Lucas's writing right there for you.
Look at this. This is an advanced society that can break light speed, and they can't stop somebody from dying of a broken heart? Are you kidding me?
I think she died from the horrible overacting of no towards the end of that movie. That pushed her over the top. She said, "This movie is so bad, I have to kill myself off."
Awful. There was nothing. It was the problem is George Lucas was afraid to go as dark as he needed to.
They could have said in this announcement, they could have said George Lucas handed the Star Wars franchise off to the homeless bum on the street corner, and I would have been happy with that. Just to get it away from him. I don't care who you give it to.
He's not a good writer, and it just doesn't work.
Look at the proof. The best film of them all is Empire, and that's the one he had the least to do with. He didn't write it. I mean, he wrote the treatment, but he didn't direct it. He just kind of produced it. He had someone else write it. I mean, so...
Despite the Ewoks, Jedi holds up. It does. Although the Ewoks are a little ridiculous.
The Ewoks are a lot to take. My little guy will probably love the Ewoks, though. I can see the genius of the Ewoks now, having a 3-year-old. But at the time, I thought it was kind of offensive. I wanted my Wookiees, damn it. All right, John, what else? So aside from all these numbers you're throwing about, anything else you're catching your eye?
No, Black Friday. That's about it.
That's it. So you too,
watching those numbers. I'm going to go for the toaster oven as well.
You two in line for the toaster oven and slinging spoos on your iPhone. I love it. All right. And with that, it's going to close out our Around the Block segment and also this episode of the Option Block. But before we go, I like to check in with all of my cohorts here to see what they have in store for you, the listener, in the coming weeks and months. Starting off with you, Uncle Mike Tosaw. What is coming up in the KYO webinar train?
Well, this Thursday night, we wanted him to come and be a guest today on the show, but I think because of Veterans Day, he was not available. But Eric Long from QuantTrade is going to be doing a guest webinar for us on Thursday night. It's going to be on the topic of day trading futures. QuantTrade is a CTA, and they do a lot of that. And so we're partnering up with them to present to you the educational benefits or lack thereof of day trading futures and the way that they do it and whether or not it might be for you.
All right. Thank you for that, Uncle Mike. Mr. Grigus, what is coming up over in OX land?
As always, we have our new client orientation website, the webinars on weekly. Simply log in, go over to education, and click on the webinars. Our 2 live events for December 1st, we're in Houston, and we're in Boca Raton, lovely Boca, on December 8th.
Lovely Boca indeed. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Sebastian from OptionPit.com. I believe your event for this past weekend was postponed, so if listeners missed it or they didn't have a chance to register, they now have a chance to do so yet again.
Yeah, it's going to be December 1st. The early registration date ends on the 17th. That's Saturday. We're going to be covering a lot of really cool things. It's using vol to trade direction. If you like this show, but some of it's over your head, this is the way to really learn to enjoy the show and learn a ton in the process. It's absolutely a value. So come and check it out. You will not be disappointed. And, I'll be on Fox on Wednesday. You guys can, if you want to see my ugly mug on TV.
Lovely, lovely stuff. And of course, if you want to learn more about any of the topics we talked about on the old show today, including the unusual activity or the options news or any of the other topics, the educational stuff, anything we discussed on the old show today, then by all means, surf on over to theoptionsinsider.com. I know a lot of you have written in saying that the email system on our comment section wasn't working. We fixed that now, so you can get in touch with us via that. You can post a comment on the show. You can shoot us an email via that comment system or just at questions@theoptionsinsider.com. Make sure to put option block in the subject line if you want us to look at it for this show. And that is indeed going to do it for this episode. But of course, all of us here on the All-Star panel want to thank all of you out there in the listening audience for downloading and streaming and subscribing to this program and making it such a success. And we'll see you next time right here on the Option Block.
Become a part of the Option Block. Just visit www.theoptionsinsider.com/forum to post a question for the hosts. You can also submit questions to twitter.com/optionblock or leave a voicemail at 312-544-9356. Make it interesting and your question just might make it on the air. The Options Block is property of the Options Insider Incorporated. All rights reserved. The preceding program was a presentation of the Options Insider Radio Network. For more programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com/radio or search for Options Insider Radio in iTunes.